another episode of The Next Fix. And today we've got my new friend, Big John. John has been to the rock bottom. He's familiar. I mean, gunshots to addiction, everything. He's got all the pieces to the cinematic journey of what we are so familiar with, right? You know, reformed scumbag at his finest, Big John. And he's chomping at the bit, by the way. He's a speaker. He's got a magnificent comeback story to share. John, I want to tell you thank you for showing up today. Thank you for carving out some time for me and my audience here. How you feeling today, brother?
I'm doing great, and thank you so much, my friend. This is a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, John is he's done a TED Talk. He's going to share with us all his resources. But first, you know, typically what we really like to hear about, man, is when did the shit hit the fan, John? When did you realize, my God, you know, like the train's come off the tracks and I'm staring down the barrel of the end here?
I'm going to give you just a little a notice of where I grew up before I get into it. Now, I grew up in a very unconventional life, Brian. My father was in the mob and the mafia, and I idolized that.
Wow.
And I loved my dad. He was the best father in the world. I mean, never missed a ball game. He was my idol, and I loved him. So when he died, I wanted to wear his shoes, Ryan, but I was not his size. And immediately, I found myself in a world of trouble.
Well, I hate to pump the brakes on you, brother, but first of all, you were fully aware, like what he did for work and all that. Like, I don't know. I feel like, you know, there's a level.
He kept it hidden from us. But when I became a teenager, I understood what was going on.
Right.
And so after he died, I wanted to wear his shoes, but I was not his size.
Yeah.
So
I love that, by the way. That's a good phrase.
Immediately, I found myself in a world of trouble. This man, instead of paying me a gambling debt, decided to try to murder me. And he shot me in the back of the head and left me to die. And so that was the way I grew up, and that's what happened to me.
Okay.
And Ryan, being shot in the head was the easy part of my story, as it spiraled out of control with drug addictions, alcohol addictions, food addictions, gambling addiction. I was a mess.
Right. So moderation's not your thing, huh, John? Right. I'm with you, brother. I'm with you. It's not my thing either.
No. It was awful. So I was in a coma. When I went to they got me out of the basement where I was. They found me. They got me to a hospital.
Right.
And I was in a coma. And Ryan, my coma was one long drain. The midst of my drain was we're in a hospital, and I didn't know why. And every day we had a swimmer race. And the winner of this race got to go home. Now remember, this is all a dream.
Yeah.
Ryan, it was one long dream. It was vivid. It wasn't like a foggy dream. I remember it like it was yesterday. The smells, it was vivid. And so you had to go swimming every day. The winner of the race got to go home. And it hurt like hell to get in that pool. The pain was immense. But once you hit the water, I was free. I didn't feel no pain. But I kept losing and losing and losing. And I finally said, that's it. And this is the first time I've ever said it in my life. Even though it's a dream, the first time I said it, I quit. I'm not doing this no more. It hurt so bad, and I kept losing. I said, that's it. This old man sat in my bed, who I had no idea who it was, recollection of him at all. And he said to me, you're not going to quit. You're not alone, and I'm going to coach you. He took me to that pool daily and trained me. That was the day of the big race. He gets me out of bed. He gets me down to the pool. He's cheering me on. I was swimming like a bear of hell. I hit that wall, and I woke up.
This is so wild. Okay, so, dude, this is crazy. So, all right. So, And this, we haven't even gotten to the drugs and all that shit, but like you get blasted in the head, you go into a coma, real life, right? That happens to you. Well, first you lost your father, you go down this path of mafia business, not good business, right? And so you're in over your head, you get shot in the head, you go into a coma, but now you're having a spiritual awakening, right? Because while you're in a coma, you're going through this race every day in a swimming pool, right? Which, who knows what the hell the meaning of that is, but here you are in the swimming pool. A man comes to you in the dream, wakes you the hell up. I'm sorry. He tells you in the dream, you're going to win, and he coaches you, and then you fucking win, and then you wake up, right?
It is.
But in real life, like, so it's a real spiritual awakening. You come out of a coma, right? Okay. I mean, this is crazy.
So now, Ryan, this is when the drugs and alcohol came in. After 3 months in a coma, I spent another 6 months in the hospital. And when I got out, I was expecting this big welcoming party. Ryan, I got home, there was a cricket. There was nothing. So I went to my basement apartment. Ryan, the depression was overwhelming.
Yeah.
Overwhelming. I was eating and eating. And then I added alcohol, and that tasted good. And before I know it, cocaine was in the mix. And you know the story from there, Kevin. Right. It was awful. Yeah. Every day, drinking, cocaine, eating. I was up to 330 pounds, sitting in a wheelchair, snorting coke and drinking all day long. When I tell you, I thought my life was over. I mean, I never contemplated suicide, but I wanted this to end.
Right.
So now, my family is catching on to what I'm doing, and I can't afford my drugs anymore, so I become a drug dealer.
It's the only smart move, right? Like, it's how can I?
After being shot in the head and in a wheelchair, I decided I want to become a drug dealer. So I moved out of my mom's house in the basement apartment. I got my own place. I started doing my own thing, and now I am in a wheelchair, doing drugs all day, selling drugs to meet my habits. But the police didn't find this too amusing. And it wasn't too long before, boom, my door comes crashing in. 10 cops come barreling through. They find drugs, they find money. But Ryan, I'm saying to myself, at first I thought it was there. I thought I was being robbed. Then I heard the walkie-talkies. And I said, you know something? I said to myself, couldn't believe this. I said, it's over. And I giggled and laughed. I was so relaxed. And the cop said to me, what the hell is so funny here? I said, sir, you don't understand.
Yeah.
I am lividly happy right now that this is going to end.
Right.
So they arrest me. They take me to jail. And I bail out. Now I'm sitting in the parking lot of jail, weighing 300 pounds, no drugs, no money, and nowhere to go. My friend who was with me said, you know what? You need to get sober. You're going to detox. I had many opportunities in front of me. So I even know what detox was. Seriously.
Okay.
So I go to detox. Now I have to be interviewed to be accepted to a halfway house because I want to stay sober now. I'm a week sober. I'm getting cleaned up. I want to stay sober. So I have an interview at the Granada House in Boston. So I go there. I have to meet the executive director. I wheel in my wheelchair, and I'm sitting in her office waiting for her. And this woman comes walking in. You could tell there was something wrong. She was wobbling. She was slurring her speech. She sits down and explains to me her story, what happened to her. She had a cocaine-induced coma, and she nearly lost. She was 20 years sober now.
Okay.
But she told me how she almost lost her life. She was in a wheelchair, and I can remember looking at her. I could not believe she got out of that wheelchair. That wheelchair was prison. It was hell. I couldn't believe she got out of that wheelchair. And that's what I'm looking at her. She's glowing and happy and smiling. I'm saying to myself, boy, I want this. She became my best friend. I just wrote a book about this. It's called Triggered to Change. Triggered to Change.
Right. And I can see it in the back. I can see it behind you. There, is that the cover?
This woman, Deb, is the one who wrote my intro, my foreword for the book. She wrote I'm very good friends with her.
Yeah.
So anyways, back to the story. She became my very best friend. I listened to every word she said. Go to 3 meetings a day, get a sponsor, do this, do that. Whatever she said, I did not differentiate. I wanted what she had. She was driving a Mustang stick shift. She said, you know why I drive that? She said, because the doctor said I couldn't. That's why I'm driving that. Unbelievable. So now I still have this black card of this court case over my head by my halfway house. And so Deb is taking me back and forth to court. So this is my last time in court. I roll up in front of the judge, thinking to myself, he's going to be very lenient on me. This is my first offense. I'm in a wheelchair. He's going to be over. Guy was about 90 years old. He looked down at me, put his glasses down. He said, Mr. Carter, he said, we do not discriminate in this court. You will get the same sentence any drug dealer gets. This ain't going too good.
Yeah.
Well, right, he gave me 10 years. And at first, I was very upset and mad. But that changed, and I'll tell you about that. But that changed.
Well, hold on. I'll make sure I'm capturing this correctly here, John. All right. So you get popped, right? They come in. You're thankful because I listen, and I know, I get it, man. It is exhausting. Dealing drugs, doing drugs, living that lifestyle, lying, abusing. It is literally exhausting. And so I understand that when you finally look around and you're like, okay, I can actually, if I go to jail, I'm probably going to go to sleep for the first time in months. And so I see that, okay, you're feeling a sense of relief because you get popped, you get busted, and then you go into jail and you get out and you're looking for a halfway house. You meet your best friend, Deb, right? Now she's kind of showing you the light, right? She's showing you the light. And here you are, you go into court and you're thinking like you might get a pass because you don't have like a super long rap sheet, but instead.
And I'm with Deb.
So you've got like some support. You've got somebody to vouch for you, and then bam, he hits you with 10 years.
Unbelievable.
10 years. Yeah.
So, but he did do me a favor. He gave me a stay of execution, meaning I got to go home that night, and Deb got to drive me to jail. On the way home, Deb pulls over, and she looks right at me. She says, John, she says, many in your shoes would run. Face your fears. You are not alone, and you will get through this. Ryan, I felt alone my whole life.
You know what's crazy, John? Isn't that what the guy in your dreams said to you when you're in a coma?
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
It's the same thing. So you're getting that message again in reality. Wow.
Ryan, I've gotten the message 1,000 times. So now I listened up. She says you can make it. Ryan, I go to prison, and I'm a big tough guy. Ryan, those metal doors slammed, and I was in a cell no bigger than your bathroom. This is my home for 10 years. Ryan, I cried like a baby. I cried and cried and cried. The next morning, 3 guys enter my cell. I say, shit, I'm in fucking trouble here. But I had a good name. My father had a good reputation. And the guy said, we're friends of your dad's, and we're here to help you. We're going to stop by you getting out of that wheelchair. Get out of the wheelchair? I'll bring a pound. He said, you're not using that wheelchair with us. We'll carry you wherever you're going to go. You're not using that wheelchair. For months, they took me down to the prison gym. They trained me. They trained me. I was getting stronger and stronger, using that chair less and less. And who would have thought 3 convicts in jail would have taught me this? Ryan, but I also noticed how mentally strong I was feeling by working out and getting. I wasn't alone anymore. I felt great. I went to my cell, even if there was nobody there. I felt great. I wasn't alone. I felt awesome, and I knew I wanted to do this. So, Ryan, in prison, you see a lot of recidivism. A lot of people coming in and getting out. And I said, you know what? I've been in jail 4 years now, and I'm seeing this. I said, no way. This ain't fucking happening to me. No way. And my father always taught me a lesson when I was younger. Fail to plan, plan to fail. And I said, you know what? I'm going to make a plan. So I called Deb up. I was in contact with her anyways. But I called. She said, I've been waiting for this call. She says, of course we're going to help you. You're not alone, and you can do this. You just need to ask. So, Ryan, I get out of jail with $100 and a bus ticket. Do I go right and go back home? What's going to happen to me? You know that. What's going to happen? What are my chances of being here with you? 0. So I took the left. I got on that bus and went to Boston. But I said, I trust her. And I did it. Yeah. And I went back, and thank God, Ryan. Thank God, because now I own my own business. I'm a personal trainer. I own my own private gym. I have an awesome life. I'm a single dad. I have a 20-year-old son who just was in his first year of college, never seen me drink or drug. I love my life.
That's awesome.
Now, my mother is 82. She has dementia. She lives with us, so it's me, my son, and my mom. And here's the kicker. I volunteer for this charity. We raise, train, and donate Great Danes for the mobility impaired. I have 2 Great Danes. I'm never alone.
Right.
Never alone.
Man, John, there's a big piece of this puzzle, and I talk about it a lot, but this is a great example of it. We bring our own shit with us wherever we go. And however, we look at some of these great influencers of our time that did so behind bars. They did so alone, incarcerated. You know, there's Nelson Mandela, there's Epictetus, there's these magnificent people who have changed the world. And I'm willing to bet that if you were to approach them at that point when they were feeling that energy to write down those glorious and beautiful words of motivation and wisdom, like they would have been feeling and saying the same thing that you were about when you were in jail. You weren't alone. And yet you had several interventions from people that were reaching out to you, and the gentleman in jail. And if that works for them, gentlemen in jail, there are probably a lot of more gentlemen in jail than we give them credit for.
There certainly is, right? Right. There are a lot of good people in jail.
Right.
A lot of bad people too.
Right.
A lot of people not trying to do the right thing. And this is why I just did a book signing, and they donate books to the prison. So I just went back to the bookstore and I donated 50 books. I really, really think if someone's in prison for 4 to 5, already sitting there for years, and they're getting out soon, and they read my book, they might just say, I better make a fucking plan here, because I don't want to come back to a shithole. And that's what happened.
Yeah.
And I talk about relapse a lot, and I gotta thank you so much, because it's people like you giving me platforms like this that are gonna keep me sober. Because I don't know what's involved today, what's gonna happen to me, but I guarantee, because I'm telling my story and talking, I'm not gonna be sitting in a bar drinking. I'm not gonna be doing drugs. I never say never, but I'm not gonna do that today, Kevin.
Yeah.
Because I believe people relapse because they forget their story. They forget how bad it was that day there with the detox, Because I don't know about you, but my life wasn't fucking peachy when I went to detox. But after a while, you stop telling the story. Oh, that day wasn't too bad. I could do that again. No, that was no worry, no problem.
Yeah.
Play. So by me telling my story, talking, and that's why meetings were so important at the beginning, because 3 meetings a day, AA gave me a life.
Yeah.
So I was able to talk. AA gave me a life. So now I have to live it. Obviously, I don't have time for 3 meetings a day, but I still have that same drive where I gotta talk, I gotta tell my story, I gotta remind myself every day. Now, it might not be writing a book like I did. It might not be doing podcasts or meetings or commitment. It might just be by you writing your journal every night how bad it was. So you don't forget. You don't care who knows, as long as Ryan don't forget how bad it was for Ryan.
Right.
How bad it was for as long as John don't forget how bad it was. Because Ryan, I'll tell you right now, I'd be lucky to make it back to the detox. The detox, that might what I got now.
Yeah,
I'll
right.
be lucky if I make it back to detox.
Right. Right. Because you understand how powerful your mind is once you start kind of going down that path. And so what you're touching on here is so perfect because it's just centering. And so whether it's 3 meetings a day or not, right? 3 times a day, right? You were centering, you're writing the course of the ship. You're making
Correct.
sure that you're on course, and you're doing so by the 3 meetings. And so by that dedication, and then of course having other like-minded people around you, and then just setting the course again, boom. Because you're right. An addict's mind is amazing, willingly forgetting like how bad it was. My mind was so good at it. I could go to jail the next day. It was like my brain would say, that wasn't no big deal. Let's just go ahead and call the guy and we'll just get this thing going again. And I'm like, man, and it was the resilience that I had as an addict. It was so powerful to go back to my addiction. And this is a very big deal for me these days, is that I want to use that resilience for the good reason, right? If I could show that kind of resilience as an addict, meaning I could overcome any challenge to get high, right? Any challenge. If I was broke, it didn't matter. If everybody hated me, it didn't matter. I could still get high. So if I could just flip that on its head and use that resilience to do something valuable for people and do something good and remain focused, right? If I can use that resilience to build, then all of a sudden it becomes unstoppable, right? It becomes unstoppable. But I want to know a little something about you, John. Okay, so you mentioned a little bit. Well, you're running a gym, and clearly physical fitness has been a big part of this, right? Everything from your dream that you had in a coma, you were in a swimming race. That's a very hard physical task. Then you went to prison, and physical exercise is how you got out of that wheelchair. And then you got out and you started a gym, you're a trainer and things like that. What are your thoughts on how physical exertion can be used, like as a tool, like, for all of these things?
Right, it goes hand in hand. For example, at the halfway house, it's highly recommended that you do physical training. Like, if you're a member of the house, you get a free pass at the YMCA. It's free. And that's actually where it started. When I was at the halfway house the first time, I used to wheel down the street in my wheelchair, and I used to go to the gym. And that was one of the requirements of my stay in the gym. I had to work out 3 times a week. I had to do that 3 meetings a day. Those were what Deb said. And what Deb said was gold to me, Ryan. And on top of that, I felt it. I felt it in prison. I felt, Ryan, I'm in prison, taken away from my family in a little cell, and I was smiling and happy. I hadn't smiled for years. In my basement apartment with a bunch of cocaine and alcohol, I did not smile. I was not happy.
Yeah.
Trust. In prison, I'm in a cell laughing and smiling. And it wasn't a coincidence, Kevin. It came to me. All right, I'm sorry. It wasn't a coincidence. I learned that. And I went into prison sober. I was in the halfway house. So that was a big thing for me. I went to prison sober. A lot of guys get sober because of prison. They get arrested, they have to bail, and they have to detox there. then the head don't get clear, and they're surrounded by a bunch of people that some don't have the great intention. So this way, I went to prison sober, so I was able to differentiate the bullshit and I could tell. So I didn't get caught up in that bullshit,
Yeah.
you know. So I had a clear head, which was very. So I was able to see and feel the endorphins being led to my brain, just feeling good about afterwards what I did for myself. Just feeling good.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, John, tell us about the book. Triggers is in the title, right? So what's the book? What's it about, man?
No pun intended, Kevin. The book is exactly what I've been the story. My story. My book is only 60 pages. I'm not. I am an author. I wrote the book, but Kevin, I don't consider myself a writer. I didn't finish high school. I dropped out in the 11th grade, and I didn't pay attention to the previous 10. So Lord knows I'm no scholar. So my book is inspirational and motivational, and I really hope that someone in prison is going to read my book and save their life. Because when you get out of prison, the wrong choice, it's just big for us, Kevin. I mean, right, I'll keep calling Kevin. It's just big, it's a shot. That's it. That's it. If that happens, forget it. It might not happen today, it might not happen tomorrow, but before long, it's going to catch up to you, and you're going to get right back into the swing of things.
Now, I'm super pumped that you're actually bringing that book to jail, because I'll tell you, when I was in jail, it wasn't much to read. I was like, I made a decision I was going to read while I was in there. I was like, okay, I gotta I gotta make some use out of my brain before it turns into mush. I'm sick of walking around lying to everybody all damn day about my story, right? So I was like, okay, I'm going to read some books, and there was not really any options. It was all Christian-based books, which I didn't mind, but it was tough after some time. I mean, I put back like 10 straight Christian books. I'm like, okay, and then there was one book in there that wasn't necessarily Christian-based, and it was Think and Grow Rich. And are you familiar with that? The title? Are you familiar with that?
No, I'm not.
Okay. So
I like the words.
So Think and Grow Rich it's by Napoleon Hill. And so Napoleon Hill's considered to be the grandfather, if you will, of manifestation, right? And so here I am in jail, and it's the only book that's not Christian. And I'm thinking to myself, who is this asshole? Think and Grow Rich. And I'm like, Think and Grow Rich. Okay. Well, I read it unknowing that it's sold millions of copies all around the world. I kid you not, right? Like, I didn't know any of that. I'm just reading what I thought was like the only non-Christian book. So I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And meanwhile, it has in there this like copious amounts of tactics for manifestation and thinking your way, like using your ability to focus and using the ability of filtering your thoughts into manifesting what you want in your life. And so I look back on that time and I think about how influential and meant to be that moment was, right? Like, looking back, it's perfect. It's serendipitous how perfect that book's presence was at that point in time in my life. At the time, I had no fucking idea, right? But I read that book. It has changed my life. It's changed many people's lives. So here's your book, right? Here's your book, and it's in jail. And so this is what I think there's so much value. There's so much value because there's somebody who's in there and they're in the bullshit like you were talking about. Maybe they went in and they weren't necessarily clear-minded. And so they go in and they're on the wrong leg, wrong foot, right? So they're locked up. And so they're more susceptible to the bullshit. But
exactly.
Your book, it's just sitting in there and it's just waiting for somebody to pluck it out, man. And so I really commend you. I commend you for putting, your story, like putting your words out there. Cause that takes balls, man. That takes balls to put your work out there. And then, so I feel 100% confident that you will make a difference in somebody's life by having your book in that particular place, man. I think that's awesome.
Thank you, but you just said something that really, telling a story for a long time. Like, I own a business, Brian. I'm not going to have somebody come in here. Oh, I was shot in the head. I was a drug dealer. I went to prison. But join my gym. Right, they'd run out the door. So I made up this story. before I came out by the real story. But I didn't want to lie. So I told him I was in a hunting accident. I was shot in the back of the head. Well, that's not a lie because I was shot in the back of the head. I just didn't tell them that I was the one being hunted. So that was my story for a long time. And then, then they go into it. We just left that there. And when you have a client, 3 times a week or months, you start building rapport with them. And my gym is completely private, so I'm able to have a conversation. And there's this one woman who I really trust, I really like. And I would tell a little bits here and there. And finally, she looked at me. She says, "My God," she said, "I thought you were just in an accident." She said, "I had no idea about this." She says, "You have to do a TED Talk." And she had connections through the TED Talk. And I went down for my first meeting with the TED Talk people. I remember walking out there. What the fuck did she get me involved with here? There was no way I could do this. And I said, I sat down. I said, this. She says, "John, you're not alone." She says, "I'm going to help you. You're going to do this. You're going to be fine." She got me a coach. 3 times a week, they came to my gym and they trained me. Kevin, Ryan, it was so hard to put a story together like that. That coach, I did my TED Talk. Ryan, my first time we were talking, I got a standing ovation. The whole crowd was up and cheering. I said to myself, I see my clients getting inspired by this. Now I see a group of people reacting positively to my story. I need to tell more. So I came up, I said, I'm not going to hide it no more. This is years ago. I came up, I started telling people, and that's what led me to write this book. Yeah. Because I did my TED Talk, and I wanted to have more people see it.
Yeah. What's the name of the TED Talk? What's the name of it?
It's me, John Carter.
John Carter.
John Carter. It's on YouTube.
Gotcha. Well, and believe me, I'm gonna have everything in black and white so people can find it, click on it.
Yeah.
Hard Road to Recovery.
Man. John Carter TED Talk. And I did that with my service dog.
With the Great Danes, yeah.
We'll see. Now this charity is awesome. Now my book is the proceeds are helping charity. Ryan, to see people like, for instance, 2 weeks ago, I met this kid who's 12 years old with multiple sclerosis. He walked with canes. And he was at the farm, and I was at the farm, and I was talking to him, and he said, "John, do you really think I'm going to get a dog?" I said, "Now there's 80 Great Danes. You're not going to know which one you're going to get." I said, "You might not get Honey over there who he loves." I said, "But you're going to get a dog, and they're all great. You can't go wrong." The following week, he got a dog. His parents haven't stopped chanting and raving about it. They said they haven't seen their son smile it in years. Now it's ear to ear all day long. This 12-year-old kid walking down high school corridor, he's not walking with his big cane. He's walking around with a 200-pound Great Dane. They said, not to school, they said everybody in our town knows who he is.
Yeah.
The kid's life is changed. And that makes such a big difference. I see people changing like that. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, you were right there on the edge, man. I mean, of course, you got shot in the head. You could have died at that point. You could have got out of prison and went back. Like you said, you saw a lot of people do that. However, you have cultivated a life to where you are influencing people positively nonstop, and so what would you say, and this is a tricky question. Do you remember when the switch flipped, when you started to realize that you giving did so much for yourself? Like, is there a point when you started realizing this is what it's all about? Like, I know if this kid gets a dog, it actually makes me feel better.
Correct. It started when I started my gym.
The gym, yeah.
not even owning this one, but when I started working at Boston Sports Club, when I seen individuals working harder because of my story, because of what I did. I remember the guy said to me, he said, what fucking excuse do I have? He said, I watched you and I seen what you've done. Who the fuck am I to complain about anything? And that's the way I take it. Who am I to complain about anything? Right. I mean, I have difficulties. Don't please. I have a lot, but you know what? What I don't have, it's very easy for me to be grateful. So easy. I have so many people around me to help me, saying I'm not alone. I mean, from the guys in jail, from Deb to the guys in the halfway house, the judge that sentenced me 10 years, I was mad at him. And I ended up writing him a letter thanking him because he did me a friggin' favor. He taught me a lesson. A lot of people, what if I got 6 months and I didn't really learn my lesson? And this is why I learned my lesson. See,
Yeah.
beautiful. The cops that arrested me, I've seen them. I've seen them when I go to the gyms. I've seen the cops that arrested me. I sat down and I talked with one, and I thanked him for doing what he did to me.
Yeah.
And he knew me. He knew my dad. I knew him from when I was 5 years old. He used to always do business with my dad, but it wasn't drugs. You know what? Gambling is one thing, but drugs is a whole different ballgame. I was dealing drugs in the city. Well, because you knew my father's supposed to give me a pass. No way. No way. So I'm very thankful. I have a great
You know,
life.
I do the same thing, brother. Like I tell people it's so easy for me to be grateful because of my story. And it kind of
There
touches
you
on
go.
what we were mentioning before. Like you going to the meetings 3 times a day and telling your story, it's setting the course back. You're setting the course correct by telling your story so many times a day. It's bringing you back in line and keeping you focused
Correct.
and on the
Correct.
path. Now, for me, when it comes to gratitude, it's so easy to just pluck a memory. You know, I could just, I mean, go into the bucket of horrible memories that I have and pluck one out and say, oh yeah, I remember when I was working in sewer water for $8 an hour. This ain't so bad, and that
There,
it could be applied to pretty much anything.
there,
Or like,
there you go,
I
buddy.
could remember waking up from a seizure and having a broken foot from withdrawals. Okay, this ain't so bad. And so like the degree to which we see the dark can really play a role in how we can pivot back to the light, right? Is if you're so familiar with the darkness and you know what it feels like for life to really feel like shit, you can just so easily see how much light that you're enjoying at the current moment. And so it becomes a skill, and it also becomes a blessing to have horrible memories, because if it wasn't for the hard times that you had endured and also that I haven't endured, like if it weren't for those very, very tough times, it wouldn't be so easy to see how good we have it now, right? The light wouldn't shine so bright because we wouldn't know how dark it could get. And so it's a very important part of this whole recovery process, man.
Yes.
It is 100% a gift. Now,
So
tell us more about what you got going on what do we got coming on in the future? Where can people find you? Where can people work with you? Where can we find the book? I mean, just share with us whatever resources you got, man.
what I got going on today is I'm promoting my book. That's what and I'm doing a lot of podcasts. And I really, really love telling my story. It's really helped me. I mean, my goodness. And my dad always taught me to know your weaknesses. And marketing and doing all this publicity stuff is not my strength. I'm a trainer. Technical stuff. So I hired myself an assistant. And he's awesome. He's Ian. I think you met him. He's the one who booked me on this podcast. And he's simply awesome. And I'll tell you what, I love training. So I love what I do. So I'm going to continue my training, my personal training. Absolutely love that. I don't even feel like I work.
Right.
Seriously.
I was a trainer for a long time, man. I really
I
did.
come to
I
the gym
really
at
liked it.
6.
It was awesome.
I come to the gym at 6 for my first client, and I love it.
Yeah.
I never say, oh, I gotta go to work.
Yeah.
I love what I do.
Yeah.
I'm so blessed.
That's
So
awesome.
blessed. Now my book can be found on Amazon. Ticket to Change, A Life Full of Turbulence. The proceeds of this book is helping Service Dog Project, which raises funds and donates great things to the mobility impaired, veterans, first responders, then the general public.
Yeah.
And that changes lives. I love changing lives.
I want to make sure I got all this straight here, man. And so if you could just scoot back just a little bit so we can see the cover of the book. There we go. Triggered to Change, A Life Full of Turbulence. Right. There, okay. Because I knew it was back there. Sorry for
it's
but and so and now the proceeds from the sale of that book, it goes to the Great Dane Service Dog Foundation.
right.
Right. Okay, that's awesome.
Correct. Service Dog Project.
Service Dog Projects. Okay, got it, man. Okay. And like I said, I'm gonna have all this in print, man. I'm gonna have this all lined up so people could just click away, you know.
They're awesome charity. They changed no, seriously, they changed lives. They changed lives. For instance, walking out, he's my cane. I walk his turbulence. He's 200 pounds. He's awesome. But like when I walk around before I hit him, I'd always look down at the ground to make sure I'm not going to trip. So I was never able to see the buildings. I'm walking around with him. It's a whole new world. I said to my friend, I said, when did they put that building up? He said, oh, about 35 years old. So here's another story with my great Dane. My grandkids live in Florida. My daughter lives in Florida. I went and seen him last year. And I have turbulence. Turbulence is subside. He goes right on right in the cab with me. But I want to have him. So I bought it back up to the Service Dog Project farm. They specifically trained him for that because I was nervous. All right, I had trouble going to my backyard. Now I'm going to go all the way to Florida where I took the pound Great Dane. So I was nervous. But Ryan, I told everybody I was nervous for him. I was nervous for me. I was petrified. I said, how am I going to do it? Ryan, he was awesome. Oh my God, he taught me I was not alone. I can go anywhere in this world now. There is no unbelievable. So we're getting on, and the pilot stopped us. He said, folks, he gets on the microphone, folks, said we have a little turbulence here, and I can't get rid of it. The people have turbulence. My Great Dane.
Yeah.
He comes right on, he took the whole road, and people were amazed. it was amazing. But that goes to show what this charity can do for people. For me to go to Florida, I would have been scared the whole way.
I love it. I love it, brother.
Awesome.
Well, listen, I truly appreciate you sticking around, right? You fought through a headshot wound, you fought through a coma. Man, it's such a glorious story, and it's such a beautiful thing to see somebody that's so dedicated to making other people better, man. And so I truly appreciate the time. All right, guys, this has been another episode of The Next Fix. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you, guys. Never give up.